So here's what I've been thinking. I've been really in prayer a lot lately about the days that Daniel has talked about. In Daniel, he sees two angels and he asks, when will these things be? And the angels say, well, this will be for 1,290 days. And then it said, blessed is he who comes to the 1,335th day. So I was like, that's kind of weird. And so then John the Revelator gives another set of dates. He says, that the two witnesses will be prophesying for 1,260 days, and that the Jews will flee into the wilderness and they will be fed for 1,260 days. So I wondered if those two were simultaneous, those 1,260 days. And then, of course, it seems to me that would all fit in line. It's 30 days difference between the 1290 and the 12, so that's 1 month shy, and then of course then another 45 days for the 1335. So the more I was thinking about it, it just seemed that it was feast days. It just seemed like that timeline seemed to be like feast days, the Moedim. And I know that some Christians believe that the feast days are over and that we don't celebrate them. And we don't, as Christians, we don't celebrate the feast days. No, we can, and remember the dates, but we don't necessarily celebrate them. Although I think it's important for us to understand that Jesus was a Jew, and just to see the symbolism, and it's really, really important, especially with Passover. It's just beautiful. Anyway, but it just seemed that it was feast days to me, and I was just praying about it, thinking about it, and just Hanukkah kept coming to mind. Now, I know Hanukkah is not one of the feast days listed in the Torah. I get it, but Hanukkah hadn't happened either. And of course, Hanukkah was in that intertestamental period where Antiochus Epiphanes desecrated the temple, and then Judas Maccabees, they had to take it back, and they had to consecrate the temple again. And so to me, it's important because first of all, it relates to the temple. And Daniel talked about it. Daniel talked about the abomination of desolation, and talked about Antiochus Epiphanes and all this. And so that was fulfilled. Daniel prophesied it was fulfilled in the intertestamental period. So it was kind of like, well, that's already important. It was a prophesied event. And so it seemed like it is kind of a feast day, like Purim was a feast day that wasn't in the Torah, but it became a feast day. And then, of course, Jesus celebrated Hanukkah, and we wouldn't have Jesus at all without the temple being rebuilt, because the temple had to be consecrated again so that Jesus as an infant could be dedicated. And then also the veil was torn when Jesus was crucified on Passover. So to me, it was like it had to happen. And of course, it happened on December 25th, 167. So it was really important. So it just seemed that 1335, it just kind of like, that's Hanukkah. That's Hanukkah. It comes all, it's like that's the last feast is Hanukkah. And so then I started like crunching the numbers and looking at all the dates of Hanukkah, starting with 2031. And I started with that date because that's 7 years from now, and we know it has to be at least 7 years. So I did all of the Hanukkahs and from 2031 all the way to 2040. And if I backtracked 75 days, so to get to that 1260, not the 1290. The 1290 falls nowhere in there, but the 1260 day that John the Revelator gave, the 1260 date, with the exception of 1 year, it always fell either on Yom Kippur or the day before Yom Kippur. And to me, that just rang true that's really important. And so then I started with use Hanukkah as the date of 1335. That's the 1335th, 1,335th day from the abomination of desolation. That happens at the midpoint of the tribulation. So if you backtrack 1335, then of course you're going to get the date of the abomination of desolation. So then you back that up again, the 1,260 days that you get from Revelation, and there's the treaty that's going to be signed, the covenant with many. So it's like you could just, if you have one element, then you know the rest of them. So it just seemed like if you use Hanukkah as a date, And I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying I don't believe this like I believe Jesus on the cross for me. I'm just saying this is a thought that I have. What if that 1335 is Hanukkah? And we can back that up. And so I did that for 2031. Hanukkah actually in the year 2031 is on December the 9th. You back that up 1,335 days, and it falls on April 13th of 2028. So if December 9th, 2031 is the 1,335th day, April 13th, 2028 would be the abomination of desolation at the midpoint of the tribulation. And if you back that up 1,260 days that you get from John the Revelator, the time and half a time, then you back that up to October 31st of this year. Of course, I did pick the 2031 because it's the next 7 years, so of course it would fall sometime in this year. Which I found it interesting that it landed on Halloween, because that would be the covenant with many that Daniel talked about. And I've heard my whole life that Halloween is like the satanic holy day. And it's just like, interesting. It just raised my eyebrows a little bit that it fell on Halloween. Now, I don't know for sure when the rapture is going to happen. It could happen anytime. I do believe it's going to happen before the covenant with many. And this, you could do this for any Hanukkah in the next, 50 years. I've just picked 2031 because it's the next one. I did find it interesting that if you back it up, the 1335 and then the 1260, it fell on Halloween. But of course, there's probably other, interesting tidbits in other years as well. But I'm just giving this out there. This is my method that I used. And this year, Rosh Hashanah is on October the 2nd through the 4th. Now, a lot of people say Rosh Hashanah is not when the rapture is going to happen. Well, rapture can happen anytime. Okay, I'm not giving a date. I'm just saying that Rosh Hashanah has always sounded rapture-like to me, because, first of all, it's the next feast to be fulfilled. All the spring feasts have been fulfilled. Rosh Hashanah has never been filled, and there's no point to it. If you read the Torah, there's a blurb. All the other ones, you could point to something. There's no reason for it. It's just, you're going to blow trumpets on this day. Yay! Why? So it's like trumpets, and then, of course, the last trumpet is called the Tekiah HaGadolah, which is the great trumpet, the last trumpet. And then, of course, the no man knows the day or the hour expression can be used as a pointing tool to Rosh Hashanah, because it doesn't really fall in one day. They don't know when exactly it falls. So it's kind of ambiguous that maybe I can see the argument for it. Again, I'm not saying for sure, because I don't believe any particular date, because Jesus could come back at any time. The rapture could come back any time. So I'm just saying that Rosh Hashanah this year, just giving this little information, Rosh Hashanah happens on October the 2nd through the 4th. And if that were the case, say we got raptured October the 2nd this year, and just a hypothetical, then Satan would have almost a month to get his final ducks in a row and be able to sign that covenant with many on October the 31st. And then 1,260 days later would be the abomination of desolation, the midpoint of the tribulation. And then 1,335 days later, that would be Hanukkah of 2031. So I'm just throwing that out there. Again, I'm not a prophet. I'm just looking at things. I did ask the Lord for some clarity on this. But sometimes the Lord kind of points you in some directions, and then you can go a little further. So some of this might be me. I'm not a prophet. I'm not saying I got all this from the Lord, but he caused me to think about this. So I'd like you to maybe to think about this and just think about what does all this mean? And I believe that God put everything in the Bible for a reason. And so, Daniel even said the wise will understand. It's like, okay, all right. Am I the wise one that will understand? Maybe, maybe not. Just throwing this out there. And let me know your thoughts on it. Please be kind. If you disagree, just say you disagree. You don't have to be ugly. All right. And have a great day. Bye.